everybody. Welcome. Very nice to meet you all. Thanks for coming. I know there's a lot happening, so I appreciate it. My name is Mike, and I work with the lovely people at a company called RGA. I'm based in our New York office. This is the space. There's about 2,000 of us throughout the world. This is our office, so it's a bit like an airport meets a design museum and a spaceship. And you can see that shelf in the background there is just littered with awards of all kinds, from D&ADs to Cannes to Clios to Oscars. I have to walk past that every morning to my office with no pressure. So I'm a designer. This was the first thing I designed at RGA, which is my own little Rigby logo on day one when I needed a new screensaver, and it's probably still the best thing I designed. So it's been downhill since day one. And I actually just love this. I love brand identity. I love design in all of its forms. So that's what I really want to talk about today. We're a big design and technology company. Our longest running client is Nike. We've been working with Nike for 20 years. So we built Nike Plus, the Nike Apple Watch, all the service design, all of the interface and the language we use. The Nike Apple Watch we did recently too. This is cool. I don't know if you've seen it, but we made this last year. So this is an AR experience we created for Nike to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Michael Jordan's dunk from the free throw line. So we recreated him in augmented reality. So you hold your phone up, and you can see Michael Jordan at the apex of this superhuman feat of athleticism. And Tinker Hatfield came out of retirement to design these special shoes, which you could actually buy through the app for the first time. You could do this through Shopify. And this was the logo. So you take Air Jordan and you tilt it to make AR Jordan. A lovely piece of work by Ben and Gabe across Portland and New York at RGA. Big fan. We also rebranded the Golden Globes recently. We didn't stop with the logo. Of course, the trophy itself being one of the kind of most interesting parts of the brand. And this is one of the most dropped awards in the world because it's so badly designed. Even the legendary Lady Streep, everything she does is elegant. Even she can't hold it properly. So we redesigned it. We made it more ergonomic, easier to hold. And interestingly, it's also one of the most forged awards in the world. So we actually added a digital chip to each award, so it's impossible to copy. So this on the left is Lars. I think he's here, actually, but Lars is the designer on this, pretending he won a Golden Globe. And then that's Aldo on the right there, one of our creative technologists, and he's actually backstage fitting the chips as the artists come off stage. So he's got Glenn Close hovering art director style over his shoulder. How cool is that? So we work with big, small, medium, all kinds of businesses. We've actually helped incubate over 120 different businesses over the last 4 years through our ventures program. Here's a few highlights. So the top middle there, that actually is a new technology that protects your home. On the left there, that actually helps you to ride your bicycle more safely. Bottom right there, that's a connected baby sock that protects your child. And this one, bottom left's one of my favorites, actually. Now, this is a bot that we built that builds bots. It's called BotBot. This is how it works. So it's a templated bot. We built this out of San Francisco. And what it does is basically democratize this technology so any small business can benefit. So, if you're a personal fitness instructor, you choose the fitness bot. If you just need someone to answer your calls, answer bot, foodie bot, etc. And within a few clicks, within a few minutes, it can actually connect to your business. We do a lot of that. I think just humanizing technology, democratizing technology, so more people can benefit from it. And I think oftentimes that's good design. And so that's where we focus. As you can probably tell by my weird accent, I'm not originally from New York. I am from a weird and wonderful place in the northwest of England called St. Helens. This is St. Helens, an aerial view of St. Helens. And I was going to try and explain what St. Helens was, I couldn't really find the words. So I thought what instead I would do is share the first 3 images that came up when I searched for St. Helens when I was looking for this picture. So these are the first 3, genuinely. This was the first one. More UFO sightings in St. Helens than anywhere in the world. There's a giant triangle glowing above St. Helens. This was the second one. This is the most famous man in St. Helens. His name is Johnny Vegas, and he's a famous comedian. And this was the third one. So this poor seal found its way lost in the middle of a field in St. Helens. There is no water for 20 miles. What the hell? It's like the Bermuda Triangle or something. But I'm honestly really proud to be from here. I'm from the north of England. I'm a proud northerner. And I'm also proud to be a designer as well. To me, design is not just something that you do at the end. It isn't just an aesthetic or a craft. It's bigger than that. I always show this slide, but I think we have optimists, we have pessimists, and we have designers. So optimists see the glass half full, pessimists half empty. Designers see the wrong shaped glass. And, I did not go to a great school. I did not do particularly well at school. But through design, I actually found a way of contributing, something useful. And actually, I'll be forever grateful for that. And to me, design is not just, like I say, something you do at the end. It's actually foundational and fundamental. It's a great way of thinking about things and solving all kinds of different problems. So I didn't always think this way about design. It was actually just my heroes that made me think this way. My first one was Ken Garland, a very famous British designer. And he wrote a paper or a manifesto. I'm sure you all know it. First things first, back in the 60s. And he was asking some pretty tough questions of designers in our industry. Is our industry just merely here to serve consumerism? Is it here to sell more cat food and toothpaste? Or could we do other things? And it was signed by the luminaries of the day. When I was a design student, the language was updated, and it was signed by the luminaries of our day. And it was published in unison by all of the design press. So really the industry completely united around this and rallied around it. And that was so cool. As a design student, I was like, okay, I'm pretty proud of this, and I'm excited to join this industry. Bruce Mau, another hero of mine, really loved his use of language, shift from the world of design to the design of the world. And he wasn't being disparaging about design, but his point was that sometimes we can be a little bit inward-looking, right? I mean, we're all wearing black. We're like some kind of secret society. We got our own language. Let's open up a little bit and actually use our talents, our skills for storytelling, for problem solving, all these things that we can do really well to help design better businesses, solve other problems too. Of course, Dieter Rams, most people's design hero, this is my favorite quote of his: indifference towards people is really the only thing you can get wrong in design. So in other words, don't forget about who you're designing this thing for. His work is so beautiful, even though it's so simple. There's like a soul to it. And I love the way that he thinks and designs. And I think he's not designing for himself, is he? He's really designing for other people. I had the great honor of meeting Dieter recently. I went to the premiere of the film, the documentary. The problem was I'd also gone to an awards ceremony earlier in the day, and it was an advertising awards ceremony, which meant I was very drunk. And so I turned up at the premiere. I was like, I'm going to get a selfie with Dieter Rams. I'm on a mission. So I kind of charged in, and this is my story from Instagram. So, Dieter Rams hates me. He hates me. He's like, who's this joker? Like burning a hole in the back of my head. But we got on in the end, and we actually did a little project together, so it all worked out all right. Tim Brown, one of my favorite thinkers on design. Of course, he's the CEO of IDEO. He's a creator, he's a designer. He started in product design, and now he leads one of the great companies in our industry. And I think that in itself is worthy of celebration. I think more creative people should lead businesses, especially when the product is creativity. And I think he's done a great thing. His seminal TED Talk really inspired me back in 2009 now, 10 years ago. And he was predicting that design was on the cusp of becoming truly big again. That design is not supposed to be just disposable and ephemeral. If you look back through the history of design, from the arts and crafts to things like the Bauhaus, these movements have all been trying, not always succeeding, but at least trying to improve the world around us. And he called for designers to think big again. And I honestly think that this is the big moment for design. We've never seen a moment like this before. If you look at the explosion of technologies, this has broadened the canvas for creativity so wide that we can almost make or do anything. One of my other favorite quotes from Bruce Mau is that now we can do anything. Now that we can make anything, what do we do with that opportunity? What do we do with that moment for design? So that's really what I want to talk about today. If I have one point, really it is this, that you are needed. I think you as a designer, as a community, your team, your industry, I think it is needed right now. And I want to just explore all of the ways in which we can help, the new ways in which we can put design to service, to work for real people in the real world. Here's some of the themes. I want to talk about how design is actually making businesses and brands more useful, more generous. I mean, that's why I go to work every day to do that. I don't just want to share a bunch of case studies. I actually want to talk you through the playbook that we've created for building what we call a connected brand. How do we think about modern brand identity? I'll use an example of PepsiCo. And then I want to talk about just basically some innovations and some trends. I love coming to a conference, and what I was interested in is like, well, what are you inspired about right now? What are you talking about? And so I just want to share the 7 things that we're talking about at RGA that are interesting. Some are old, some are new. How design can drive business and move culture, and how to design for better businesses, not just brand. So that seems like a good place to start. This is one of the most famous quotes. It's at every design conference you go to. You'll see this at least once, usually multiple times. And it is a great quote, and it's an awesome photograph. But this was in 1973. And I think part of the reason why we share it so much is that still today, many CEOs don't think and speak like this, right? And the excuse, if you like, or the reason for that is there's almost this stigma around design and creativity that it's really hard to prove the link between creativity, design, and business performance. And that's why they don't allocate budget to it. That's why it's not considered a priority strategically within businesses. And this, I'm pleased to say, is completely bullshit. It's really not hard to prove the link between creativity. Here's just a few things, some research that I did. So this is a study by the Design Management Institute that shows that design companies that are driven by creativity outperform the S&P 500 by 228% over the last 10 years. That's a staggering difference. This is another study by our friends here at Adobe that shows the link between design driving performance. So companies that foster creativity and invest in design grow 3.5 times faster and report 41% higher market share. And the reason for that is because design drives greater loyalty too. 50% repeat customers because of this idea of design really being baked into the company. Design drives satisfaction. This is another study by Adobe. And there's no surprise that a lot of the best places to work are often creative companies, right? Agencies, studios, those kinds of things. And design drives innovation. This is probably my favorite. This is a Wall Street Journal study. They studied General Electric and how they use design and creativity to train their own people up. And they reported a 60% increase in patentable concepts. This is General Electric, one of the world's big engineering companies. This is not some kind of startup. And these are patentable concepts, not just big ideas and moonshots. That's pretty incredible. So I think that's just a few very quick look at how we can prove the value of design, which is great news. What's also interesting, this is a Forrester study that shows, and yet, whilst I think that the value of design is better understood than ever, most CEOs and companies don't see themselves leading on that front. So just 11% of the CEOs that were surveyed said they felt that they were actually leading on this front. Which you can interpret a few ways. You can think negatively about it and say, well, why don't they appreciate design more? Or you can think, wow, okay, so we've already proven the value and we've now established a need. That's pretty good news for us. So I think value plus need equals opportunity. So how do we actually embrace this opportunity and capitalize on it? So I'll talk a little bit about RGA. This isn't about RGA, but just to kind of frame the history of the company. So it was founded by two brothers. This is Bob and his brother Richard. The creative and the business person, basically. And they founded one of the world's first motion graphics companies. They actually founded it in the image of the philosophy of the Bauhaus, at least. Actually, Bob built the first HQ in a mirror of it. It's been bulldozed now. It's a Holiday Inn, unfortunately. But one of the few Bauhaus buildings at the time. And this idea of connecting artistry and industry through technology. So they were one of the first motion graphics companies, and the technology wasn't really there. So part of the value they created was creating their own software and hardware to do motion graphics. So they actually invented a lot of their own technology to do the work they wanted to do because they were that ahead. And that's kind of been something that RGA has strived to do since. This is our new space. You saw a little glimpse of it, and you can see the echoes of the Bauhaus in the architecture. But like I say, it's really the cultural thing. And the thing that inspired us most about the Bauhaus was this idea of intersectional creativity. Different people, different thinkers from different backgrounds working together as one team to help innovate. So that's really what we took from it. It was almost the educational model. Now, my area of expertise is branding, so I focus on RGA. And this is how we design what we call connected brands. These are the world's most valuable brands in the world. So this is Interbrand's study that was released 2 weeks ago. So you know all of these brands. Now, we're fortunate that we work with 8 of these, which is a huge responsibility. I mean, think about the impact these brands have on our lives. It's kind of extraordinary, for better or for worse. It's interesting to also think that most of these were born from technology for the first time in the top 24. And those that are not are busy reinventing themselves through technology. So I'd like to talk about 2 of our clients briefly here, just to see what can we learn from Google and from Nike. So traditional brands were built around what we call media habits. This is how we used to do branding, right? So you have these 3 ways to reach an audience, and we make advertising. We make press ads, radio ads, and we make TV ads. And this was really the world of narrative advertising. It worked for 100 years. We'd push these messages out to this passive audience from the top down. So it's brands talking down to people through emotional storytelling, the long press ad, the 30-second spot. Of course, that does not work today at all. And we have to think differently about how we create brands through habits, technology habits, which are fundamentally different to media habits. What are tech habits? Here's a few of them. So it's everything that you do on your phone, right? Those devices, there's remote controls in your pocket, swiping, liking, sharing, publishing, contributing, all these things are very different to media behaviors because they're all bottom up. This isn't brands doing things, it's us, right? We're making this content. We are the content oftentimes. So it's a different way, it's a different world, and it's not one or the other, it's both. We really do have to think about how we connect the story and the systems together. And this is at its most simple, our philosophy. So the story is really important. The story is the humanity, the emotion, why your brand exists, why anyone should care. The thing that makes it memorable, but it has to be connected to the things that you do too, the systematic piece, the service, the experience, the interface. All these things really need to connect, and they need each other. If you have a system where there's no emotion, it's sterile, it's just pure function and utility. And if you're saying something in your storytelling that is not delivered through your experience and products and services, that's when you get this disconnect and dissonance happens, and that's where trust breaks down. So many brands do this. Great at storytelling, saying one thing, doing another completely. Or it's just pure functionality and no story, no emotion. So we have to connect the two things together. The reason for that, by the way, is because these are diametrically opposed cultures historically. Mad Men, Silicon Valley, really don't get on. And so our challenge has been really bridging those two cultures together, and that's where the Bauhaus comes in. Intersectional creativity, different types of thinkers working on the same problem at the same time. Okay, this is a good example. Nike. Connected brands use an inspiring, what we call active purpose to connect story and system together. This is different from a metaphorical purpose, which a lot of brands have, which are kind of useless. So an active purpose gives you something to do. So bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world, asterisk. If you have a body, you're an athlete. So it's both aspirational and attainable. They've never had to change this. Of course, this was a company founded by athletes, don't forget. Now, probably the most famous tagline in the world, written by Dan Wyden in 1985, just do it. They've never changed that. Actually, they're using it still today, right? 30-odd years later. Brilliant piece of storytelling that actually changed Nike's business. They were actually getting destroyed by Reebok at the time when Dan wrote this. This campaign, this story, actually reshaped the business. So what we've helped to do at RGA with Nike is help to build out the systematic piece of Nike's brands. Here's a few things we did from Nike ID to Nike Plus, some of the examples that I showed you earlier. And this, again, changed the game for Nike. Completely different way of serving their customers. Don't forget, this was a shoe company that's now offering technology, helping you run faster, understand how you run better, connect you so that you can run differently, more socially, etc. And these are as important as the swoosh as just do it. And oftentimes, this is where Nike start now. They start with the service first. So it is just do it. Brilliant piece of inspiration, but it's also innovation. And it's tools that help me to do it, services. And the more that people use the Nike tools, the more Nike understands them so that they can serve them better. They've got a mantra, which is know me to serve me. It's like all over the place in Nike, that they just want to actually understand what their customers need so they can serve them better. Okay, connected brands utilize what we call both signifiers and behaviors. So this is how does identity need to change, considering that we build brands around habits. Google, of course, one of our other clients, you remember they rebranded a few years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago, right? It's a brilliant piece of work. And this is what we call the signifier of the brand. So it's the things that signify the color, the logo, the voice, all that stuff. But what was genius was, of course, much of the design press was debating whether the logo was good or not, but Google also put out this statement saying that the future of their experience would be spoken word. So you have this new behavioral context, and they also designed this suite of behaviors that help to enable that new context. So it's a brilliant piece of identity design. If you think about Google's active purpose, it is to connect the world's information, make it universally accessible and useful, and this is how their identity helps them to do it. It's an identity as a tool that helps people do things. So in this instance, what we did was help with the storytelling. The system is here, what about the story? So the story became about what Google can do for you. Instead of Google find something, it's Google do it. It's almost back to that list of behaviors that I showed you earlier. Make Google play it, skip it, dial it, dim it, etc. It's not just marketing, it's enabling. It helps me do something I couldn't do before. And it humanizes this new technology, right? And here's some of the stuff we rolled out. Okay. Connected brands need connected teams. Of course, this will sound very familiar to you, but this is how we run a project generally, right? Great design is great strategy, made visual, verbal, and experiential. I think What often happens, though, is you get these silos, right? You get these handoffs that happen. You get friction between these things. This could be 4 different companies, for instance. And this is what often happens. So the strategy takes forever to buy consensus, right? Clients keep writing the value proposition. It drags on forever. And then by the time you get to the design, the visual dominates. If you look at the average brand guidelines, not that they're very relevant anymore, but you look at those, there's 100 pages on visual and 2 or 3 on verbal. And think about verbal is so important because the verbal part is the one thing that's everywhere. Voice is literally the one thing that's everywhere, even when visible interface disappears. And you do the experience last, the most important thing. That's how you deliver the value, the service through the interface. And so this is how we like to work. We really do. We call this the atomic team. And so you basically put a team together of different atoms, and you build it around the problem, basically. And this is our interpretation of the Bauhaus. Certainly is not perfect. It's quite hard to do, but it's worth it, honestly, because the work is richer, I think. And actually, you can move faster. You can do work faster because you're testing it in all kinds of different ways. Finally, connected brands prioritize audience connections over narrative big ideas. Who here is a subscriber of Netflix? Pretty much everybody. Who skipped an ad on YouTube? Also everybody. Okay, so this is really interesting. So linear TV is being deconstructed in front of our eyes. So 6 in 10 young adults, that's more or less everyone in this room, use online streaming to watch TV. If you look at the data, it's really trending down. So this is average views, minutes of usage on the left. For the next most important audience was 18 to 34. And then on the right there, that's the year on year. That's 1/4. So that's over 17% disappeared from linear TV viewing in 1/4. That's extraordinary. And so this is a problem, right? If you are focused on narrative, 30-second spots, traditional advertising, there is no mechanism to deliver that anymore. But the good news is, I think this opens up a whole new area for creativity. So I actually think it's never been easier to be creative. We just have to think differently about media. So let me show you an example. Designing the connected brand, so this is the playbook that we use at RGA. Happy to share it. Hopefully it'll be useful for you too. And I actually presented this last year, and I used Nike as an example. And a few people afterwards were saying, well, that's Nike, isn't it? I mean, can you show us another example? So, you've been working with them for 20 years as well. So this is a brand new brand that we created for PepsiCo, 120-year-old company. And I deliberately chose this because it's not really what you would consider a digital. It doesn't have a Nike Plus. It's a very, if you look at it on the surface, analog brand. So how do we actually turn that into a connected brand? This is actually the fastest growing brand in 120 years of company history, which is cool. This is an amazing lady. She's the outgoing CEO of PepsiCo, Indra. Really inspiring. She's one of the greatest female leaders of her generation. She completely transformed that company over 18 years. If you don't know Indra, check out her life story. She's incredible. And she left this purpose-driven future, this mission basically for PepsiCo to become more nutritionally focused. And it wasn't just talk. They actually completely re-architected their whole product portfolio around it. So fun for you, the stuff that's better for you. And then on the right, the net new products that are good for you, things like protein bars, nutrition, water. And that was the first brief from Indra. Can you help us to actually capitalize on this explosion that we're seeing in sparkling water? So create a new brand. Now what's interesting, pardon the pun, but this category is pretty dry. There's not a lot of personality going on, apart from one brand, which is LaCroix. You all know LaCroix? Yes. So our brief to ourselves was, destroy LaCroix. I'm very sorry. This was not PepsiCo approved. Okay, step number 1, start with what we call a first best customer. A first best customer is an audience that's in reach that will bankroll your future, and oftentimes actually it's not the audience that the company thinks it is. And this is a bit different because it's a completely new brand, right? But we know who the audience is. It's LaCroix drinkers. So we actually want to steal market share from LaCroix, so let's have a look at how they live. So they actually have a really playful approach to life, everyday routines with this kind of sense of humor, from adulting to rompins. Also really playful with identity and career, the most fluid gender generation ever. Things like the freelance gig economy. We live, we work, all these things. Most importantly, they play with culture. So this generation has never known a world in which they didn't have tools to take culture and remake it through memes and GIFs and all these kinds of things. And this is really important because this is the context we're designing this brand for. We summarized that in what we call a mindset. This one was Generation Play, obviously a hint to the Pepsi generation, but this is a brand for the next generation. Number 2, center around an inspiring active purpose. Now, this is definitely not a change the world type of brand, and that's completely fine. It's a nutritious product that's good for you, and so it became a little bit more grounded. So we exist to make everyday life a little bit more playful. Now, the reason this is an active purpose is because it gives us a use case, everyday life. So this was really designed to be something that you would drink instead of Coca-Cola or coffee at work. So this is really designed for the everyday mundanity of everyday life. And it's just a little bit playful, so it's not crazy. It gives us a tone, right? Number 3, utilize, as I was saying earlier, both signifiers and behaviors. So this is the worlds that we created. So at the top, you'll see the name and the identity. Next, you'll see the packaging. Third, you'll see the in-store experience. And then number 4, we're looking at how this works in social. So this is really, from the beginning, how we're thinking about building the identity. This is done really quickly. I'll show you the winning brand. So this is the winner. It's got Bubbly. It's literally made out of bubbles. You can see a direct translation of that playfulness. The smile's baked into the can. And the whole can is actually an experience. So you can see each tab greets you with a different greeting. And the tone of voice around the can is really nice as well. It's a very verbal brand, very simple. And that's usually where you might stop. But here we wanted to really think about, how does this signifier become a behavioral language? How does it work? How do you bring some everyday context into it? And on the right there, you can see we just started messing around with this can, bringing it to life a little bit. And the cool thing about that is because we've personified it, now you can put it into everyday context. So on Monday at work, or vacation mode, or St. Paddy's Day. And this is what we call brand prototyping. So we're just really messing around with it. And it's so lo-fi. And we did these really quickly. But we ended up sticking with this aesthetic. We kept it this lo-fi. And that's because it's fitting for the medium. We're so used to doing things that's so polished. Social media is supposed to look like you made it in 5 minutes. And so it felt appropriate. Number 4, come to life through habits and experiences. Now, the experience here, as I said earlier, is really in-store. So this is a video that we made for retailers to help them understand why they should stock this in Walmart or Target and all the things they could do with the packaging. So oftentimes these are bought in 12 packs. So we're really thinking about the full kind of experience. And the habit we're building around is social. So we're obviously building on top of existing habits, which is social media. It's really hard to create a new habit. But luckily, there are a lot of habits out there already that you can build on. So this is, messing around with stickers and all this kind of stuff. Now, prioritize connections over narrative big ideas. And this is one of the big shifts, I think. So how do we launch this brand? What we thought was, why don't we actually launch it through social media? So this is the first time this has ever been done, but we partnered with Giphy, and we created 2,000 custom GIFs, and we just dumped them on Giphy. And that's how we launched the brand. And we worked with the most gift man in the world, which is Neil Patrick Harris. So we created all these gifts, and it's just him doing stupid things in work. People started making their own, etc. And then we mixed that with the prototypes that we built earlier, and it just becomes this kind of like social language that we can push out. And this went crazy. People started making their own. So I did this talk yesterday, and there was a team from Microsoft here. And they sent me this photograph after my talk of them at the Halloween party. They got the greeting on the stuff as well. It's kind of cool. But we did also make an ad. We actually made a 30-second spot, and we launched it at the Golden Globes. So I'll play that. Popping like the top off a bottle, and I ain't stopping yet. Baby, it's a brand new day. Ain't no clouds hanging over me. Something doesn't feel the same. The rest of my life gonna start today. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. The rest of my life. Introducing Bubbly Sparkling Water. Crack a smile. Crack a smile. Of course, it all ties together now, but we didn't start here. We actually created the other stuff first. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's like, don't just design a brand and then think, how does this work in social? Design it through social. Design it for a social-first brand identity, and it really worked. So the results are off the charts. So within 6 weeks, they had a 5% market share. After 6 months, it was $100 million. And this is a quote from the new Pepsi CEO on the right there, saying this will be the next billion-dollar brand. And on the left, this is my favorite. JetBlue just switched from Coke to Pepsi specifically because they wanted Bubbly. How cool is that? And did we destroy LaCroix? Yes, we did. So they're doing terribly. They lost 40%. And we've got all the data shows they went straight to Bubbly. And on the right there, the CEO is saying some very controversial things. So that makes you feel a lot better about this joy in LaCroix. I apologize for LaCroix lovers. Okay, so let's talk about something that's really, I think, important to all of us. Sustainability. I'll talk about this new startup that we're helping to accelerate right now. We all know that we're drowning in plastic. This was one of the most shared images of last year. Of course, you've all seen it by Justin Hoffman. Very tragic image. Of course, all of this plastic makes its way into the ocean. But it isn't just the plastic itself. It's actually the petrochemicals that are used in everyday life that are even more harmful. So the chemistry that you can't see that's baked into our everyday clothes. The fashion industry is actually the second biggest polluter in the world, after big oil. 2015, they produced more greenhouse gases than all international flights and all maritime shipping combined. And it's trending down, so it's getting worse. Can you believe that? That's staggering. So it's not just the clothes itself, it's all the harmful things that we use in our clothes. It's the textiles, it's the dyes, it's the plasticizers, the stabilizers. Everything that you're wearing is treated with some chemistry that is bad for you and bad for the environment. Even if it's a beautiful organic cashmere sweater, it's still treated with harmful chemistry. So there's this huge knowledge gap around this at the moment. What happens is we wear it, we wash it, it goes back into the ocean, back into our system, and actually goes back into us. And so here is a plankton actually filter feeding on polystyrene. So we're just starting to understand the catastrophe around this plastic and this petrochemicals. And it's in absolutely everything. It's in aspirin. It's in your shower cap, your sunscreen, your cleanser. So slightly better news. I'd like to introduce you to two of my favorite people. This is Greg on the left and Beck. So these are both PhDs and chemists. Greg's the CEO and Beck's the CTO. And they've invented a new chemistry. They've created a new molecule. And it really is a miracle. It's made out of completely natural silk cocoons. So they found out how to actually create and extract all of the proteins from this into a liquid for the first time. And that chemistry can actually replace all of the harmful chemistry that is in the world right now, whilst at the same time providing the same kind of performance benefit. So it's no cost to the manufacturer, no cost to you or the environment. It's completely circular as a process. It really is like a mind-blowing innovation. So that is incredible, but there's even better parts to the story. So this lady on the right is incredible. Her name is Rebecca, and she's an environmental sociologist. So she's one of the world's leading thinkers in plastics. She also happens to be married to Greg. Now, this is a photograph of Rebecca's father. He was one of the pioneers of the petrochemical industry. This is a New York Times article from '63 that is giving him credit for producing 1 billion pounds of plastic in a single year. Of course, he wasn't to know, right? And so this is him today, and he talks about recycling being his redemption, and he's on a mission with his daughter, with Greg, and this business to try and basically disrupt the petrochemical industry and rid the world of these harmful agents. I mean, what an amazing story, and what a great brief. So what we're trying to do is create this green chemistry company that can show us a better way of doing all of this stuff. So now, the brief is actually quite complicated. So first of all, the problem is invisible. We can't see it. No one knows about it. Secondly, the solution is invisible, so it might perform better, but you still can't see it. Thirdly, the science is very complex. So this chemistry can make your clothing last longer. It can make it softer. It can do all kinds of different things, and it's quite hard to explain. And number 4 is this is such a huge problem, we can't do it alone. So this chemistry, it needs to be able to work with any partner. So this company with Nike and Adidas, etc., or whoever it is. So we need to be able to design this brand to be around partnerships. So the active purpose is to advance the world's health by unlocking the power of nature's most elegant chemistry. So this isn't just about sustainability. It's about health, the health of you, the health of the planet. And it gives us a lens, right? So if we're not advancing the world's health, we're not doing it. And that's literally how they treat this strategy. It's on the walls around the office. Now, naming, what do we call ourselves? Interestingly, when the client approached us, they were like, okay, we've got this amazing technology. We need to create 50 brands. We need a brand in health. We need a brand in fashion. We need all this. We're going to become the Green Dow. And we're kind of like, we should not do that. We're going to create 2 brands that are actually intrinsically linked with one another. I'll explain. So this is the master brand, right? So evolved by nature is the name. So you can see that it's a direct translation of the strategy. Of course, advancing the world's health, so it's evolved. And it isn't evolving, it's evolved. So that shirt that you're wearing, that handbag has been evolved. And it's been evolved through and by nature, by organic silk protein. The second brand is the technology. So what do we call this chemistry? And we called it activated silk. It's very simple, but we take silk and we treat it with our proprietary chemistry. It becomes activated, so it's working and doing things that are unseen. Now, this is the model, creating a scaled business model. Why did we create two brands? How do they fit together? I'll just take a little bit of time to explain this. So this is the business model we created. So at the top there, you can see the model. Then you can see the brand, and then underneath you can see the branded technology. So this is what we call a first-party business, which is proprietary products. We make our own stuff. We make skincare, we make shirts, evolved by nature. Then this is what we call a second-party business, which is collaborations. So we work with Nike or Adidas or whoever to bring joint products to the world. Then thirdly, we actually have a third-party business, which is licensing. So we will sell barrels of our chemistry to anyone that we think is a good partner. And now you can see why we've created three brands, because activated silk is always there. So even on that right-hand side, this is how we're going to make most of our money, right? We're going to make our money through selling chemistry, but there's always a link through activated silk back to our master brand. So we're using all of these channels to build brand equity in our first and second party business. Does that make sense? Okay, so now designing the connected brand. So what we thought would be really interesting is, can we design a brand identity to evolve? And so that's what we did. We created a custom typeface that is coded by algorithm to evolve. So from nature and serif to science and sans. So this is how it works. So the reason we did that is not just because it looks cool, obviously it does, but it was because we're trying to solve a business problem for them. They need to work with any business in any kind of sector. And so here we can paint different emotional tones. We can be more straightforward. We can be more elegant. We can be more scientific. We can be more expressive. We can be more reserved. All of these things are possible. Now, you notice there's an asterisk there, so this is a signifier. We chose that because, of course, in annotation, it means more to see here, right? More to understand. So we can use that. Remember, the problem and the solution are both invisible, so now we have a way of pointing it out. And also, we actually coded this, and we created a typographic tool. So wherever you set that asterisk, it automatically evolves the type. So we can supply this tool to our partners so that they can use more of our brand, right? We want to encourage as many people as possible to use this. That's how we scale this model. So it's a systematic solve to a business problem. Okay, and it's also a shorthand for the brand, so it's quite a long name, right? So wherever you see that, it's Starbucks, evolved by nature. This is what's cool about the name. It's verbal and it's phrasal. So now we can bring in the technologies. It's safer by nature, it's cleaner by nature, it's elegant by nature, whatever it is we need to say. It's one brand that can now talk about all the different possibilities within the technology. And that asterisk is really useful for pointing things out. So this is what we've done here. We've made that last longer, that technology, by applying activated silk. It's just really cool for language as well on the hang tag. So these leggings have been evolved by nature, using the front and the back of things to tell shorter and longer stories. This is what we call the sentence. So now you can start to see our architecture in action here. So this leather has been finished with activated silk. It's plus moisture wicking, plus longer lasting, no petrochemicals. So it's like a structure of language that we can scale up and down, almost like a modular system. And you can see that applied to the clothing. Single words here, software evolved by nature. And here, just from single word to sentence on the right there. So you can scale the language up within the toolkit. And really, every time you see the brand, you want it to feel like there's something more to see here, right? There's something more to understand here. There's more to the story. So from these beautiful tote bags to toys, to tires, to T-shirts, this technology can really be used in anything, to skincare. So there's a skincare range coming. This tech is really good for anti-aging, and it's completely biocompatible, so you can use it with any type of skin. And it's just the start. So like I say, this is a green chemistry company that can improve all of these things. And what's really cool is that the Chanel family actually personally invested in this business. So there'll be some Chanel news coming soon. And they got loads of press for this across the fashion press. And our founders, so Beck got announced as one of the leading female founders, just about a month ago, and they also got recognized by the business of fashion. So these guys are so awesome, and they've invented something really great. So yeah, join the evolution. You can check them out, Evolved by Nature, and they would really appreciate you spreading the word about this. There's literally no downside to it. Amazing, isn't it? All right, now, about not for startup, something big and corporate, a bank. How do we apply this to a bank? Not just any bank, but the second biggest bank in Brazil, Bradesco. These guys are huge, they are massive. And what's interesting about Bradesco is they have this mission, which is to be the people's bank. But the problem is, especially in Brazil, younger generation have been completely failed by all banks and many institutions, to be honest. To the degree that there's a huge unbanked population. They just don't have a bank because they hate banks so much. So there's an entire generation being failed. So 71% of them said that they'd rather go to a dentist to a bank, so they really don't like banks. And so how do we design a bank for the unbanked was the challenge here. Funnily enough, we put them first to try and unlock opportunities. How do they actually live, and what do they need, and how do we show up and be useful for them? Now, like anybody, they want to kind of save for life goals and they want to progress, but they also want to have a good time while they're young, right? And so this is how they live. They live paycheck to paycheck in these really volatile 15-day cycles. Now, the way that banks make money, it doesn't really matter whether you make money or not because it's late fees and charges. So there's almost a game to banking that you're always on the losing end of. So how about we change the model so that you can still live paycheck to paycheck, but we use our technologies and our partnerships and AI to actually help you level up just a little bit every 15 days. And we can do that through personalized credit at a low rate, or the new partnership opportunities that we have for Bradesco with amazing partnerships, so that you're still enjoying yourself, but you're actually progressing. So this is the bank. We designed the whole thing from the ground up. Here's some of the interface moments. It's very intuitive and easy to use, but it's really helpful. It's always looking out for you and trying to get you to the next level, and that's what we call the brand, Next. So the logo is both a signifier and a behavior. So it tells you how much money you've got in your 15-day cycle. So it's like, I'm rich, I'm broke, etc. So there's a little bit of a functionality to it. And of course, it's very deliberately not a bank, right? So it's not blue and red. It's the most digital color. It's kind of like retina burningly bright. And we designed everything. We just literally everything. So what I really like about this is, my first project when I was a junior designer, I helped my creative director design a logo for a bank. I didn't do anything useful. But that was my first project 20 years ago. And then I think our industry kind of expanded and we started to design the brand. We'd think about the uniforms, we'd think about the interiors, the signage, etc. We literally designed the bank. You know what I mean? Like, that is the bank. That little thing is the bank. And we had a team of graphic designers, service designers, product designers, writers, strategists, designing how the account and the model worked. I can't imagine a bigger, more profound shift in our industry than that. That's kind of incredible. It's design where it's needed most and often felt the least. And I think that's really bloody exciting. Okay, 650,000 customers in 6 months. That's a lot. And you know what's really cool? 80% of them weren't switching from another bank. This was their first bank. So finally they saw, here's a bank that actually is putting me first. And guess what? Putting people first is really good for business. So that's good news. Okay, how is design changing? So like I said earlier, 7 things that we're really excited about right now. So this is based on a conversation between our Chief Technology Officer, Erin Lynch, who's one of our great experienced designers, Andre, who's our Chief Creative Officer in London. And some of these are really old ideas and some of them are new. And I'm going to go fast and you won't be able to take notes. But Adobe have already filmed this. So I'll share that straight afterwards so you can watch it again afterwards. Number 1, circular design. Everyone's heard of circular design. It's actually really easy to understand. Tim Brown, one of my heroes, the next big thing in design is circular. So it's very simple. We move from what we are right now, which is a linear economy. So we dig things out of the ground. You make something with it. You use it, often just once, and then you dispose it and put it back in the ground again, which is the very definition of insanity. Isn't it? What the hell are we doing? We make single-use objects out of the most indestructible things we've ever created. It is nuts. Okay, so circular is as it sounds. So first of all, the materials are designed to last longer. They're resilient, right? They're also regenerative and they're restorative. This is a great example. There's loads on the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. That's where this idea started, the circular economy in the 70s. And there's loads of good examples. This is a good one, Ecovative. So they're an alternative materials company. So this here is wine packaging that has all the properties of plastic. It's made of mushrooms. And so you just put, once it's used, it biodegrades. You can put it back in the ground again at no cost to the environment. Nike just launched their own circular design guide recently, so check that out. There's loads of good tips if you want to bring it into your own practice. There's some useful stuff there, videos and interviews and things. All right, spatial design. This is really interesting. This is another one of my heroes, Kevin Kelly, and he's talking about sometime very, very soon, every place, everything in the real world, every little detail will have its digital twin in what he calls the mirror world, which is a terrible name, but yeah, I know what he's trying to say. The foundations are nearly here, right? That's why it's exciting. There's a few reasons. One is Tesla. So this is Tesla's view of the world. Of course, it's full of an array of cameras. So you're seeing this really detailed 3D map of the world. This is new data we've never had before. Secondly, another one of our clients, Magic Leap. This is Magic Leap 1, the in-camera technology. It's actually mapping the world in real time. This is on 4G, so this isn't even 5G. This is actually a completely accurate real-time map of every environment and every interior. So this is a new, quite literally new spatial dimensions for us to build experiences around. We have the physical world. We've already built the digital world. Now we have these endless new layers that we can serve people. We can help people get somewhere faster, use less energy, live healthier. We can entertain them in new ways. And these are infinite. Each one of these layers can be completely personalized. Spatial design, this is called the Magic Verse. This is Magic Leap's development platform. This is one of my favorite examples, Google. They just built this digital monument to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall movement. Do you see it? You can check this out on YouTube. The video, case study video will make you weep. It's so good. Each one of these tiles is a piece of content from the Stonewall archive. And you can see this across New York if you hold your phone up. It's really cool. And you can add your own tiles. You can see it. I love this. So good. Of course, the AR Jordan thing I showed you earlier was one of our versions of that. Cool is that? Transition design. So this is coming out of Carnegie Mellon. Amazing lady, Terry Irwin, she's the dean. What is transition design? Basically, how do we design the transition that accelerates us towards a more sustainable future? It's okay to invent something like evolved by nature as a chemistry. How do we design the infrastructure around it so it's scalable and feasible? A great example to put this into context is Tesla. Elon Musk, I think, is an amazing transition designer, not that he'd call himself that, but the fact that he's put it together with Solar City. The thing about electric cars, perhaps some of you know, is that it's still way more sustainable to design a fossil fuel car right now, which is not surprising given they've had a 100-year head start. Things like battery production really are actually quite harmful, and when you consider the average life cycle of the product too. Of course, Elon Musk knows this, so what's he doing? He's designing the transitions. This is Gigafactory 1 that went online recently. Have you seen this? This is the world's biggest building. It's 3 times the size of Central Park, and it's completely renewable energy, which is incredible. I mean, there's literally no excuse for anybody not to build a building this is the biggest building in the world, and it's completely renewable. He describes this as the machine that builds the machine, and every bit as important as a product as the car is. Really cool. Designing with AI, of course. I'm sure you've heard a lot about this today. This is one of my favorite articles. You can read it on Fastco. The End of Code. So this talks about the idea that we won't program computers, we will treat them like pets. I think it's completely true. This is one of my favorite thinkers. His name's Maurice Conti. You can see him on YouTube. Don't worry, I'll share the link. Our tools will move from passive to generative. So in the whole history of humanity, every one of our tools we've ever built has been passive, in the sense that the spear only throws where, goes where you throw it, and the chisel only goes where you point it. And even our most advanced tools in our industry, your stylus, you're literally forcing your will into it with your hands, right? That's how we design. But now our tools will be generative for the first time. So we will give them a brief, or we'll set them some parameters. So this is there's a spear. This is an algorithm, an AI designing an aerial drone chassis. So it's been given a brief. It's been given how much weight and some parameters around dimensions. And it is here working through the permutations. It's designing. This is the end result. And it's no coincidence that it looks almost identical to the skeleton of a flying fox, because it's replicated natural selection. This is a structural node. On the left, designed by a human. On the right, designed by algorithm, AI. The one on the right uses 75% less material and is as strong. So it makes you think, right? When we start to design a world around us with AI that uses less, and it also makes you think about aesthetics. When the machines help us design things. I mean, I think there is a kind of alien beauty to that, but things are going to start looking weird pretty soon. Okay, automated activism. Now, this is a branch of AI that I'm really excited about. Automation has got a bad name, right? It's ruining the world. But I'm going to show you some examples where it isn't. Now, women make up 50% of the workforce, but are 25% less likely to get a raise. This is outrageous. Exactly. So what do? So we work with this amazing lady. Do you all know Cindy Gallop? Definitely worth your time following. She's a badass. So what we did was we used AI to actually use a tone analyzer to scan all of her posts and articles, and we turned Cindy into the Cindy bot. And she helps you negotiate. So I'll just show you this.
Unfortunately, women are 25% less likely to get a raise than men. I'm Cindy Gallop. Message me to get the absolute goddamn fucking shit ton of money that you deserve.
Women, speak up. The only people who can make things happen for us is us.
Tell me the highest number you'd like to make you can actually say out loud without laughing. Ask Cindy Gallop on Facebook Messenger. Message me to get the raise you deserve.
Massive, huge thank you to Cindy for doing that. What's cool about this is it is genuinely a useful tool. It is not a gimmick. So this actually gives you the motivation and the inspiration, but actually the best negotiation tactics around. It pulls from the best sources and even the best, most accurate data in your region, even down to things that you might say, also even what day is best for negotiation, things like that. It's a genuinely useful tool. And it's a really interesting use of technology. So how do you take someone incredible that's so inspiring, like Cindy, and scale her through technology? You create this network effect. And this was not possible, right? This was just a team of young creatives that never built a bot before. And they just figured it out on the job and did it because they wanted to. And you know, it's helped hundreds of thousands of people. It's still live, by the way, so if you want to use it, just message Cindy on Facebook. This is really cool. So this is an amazing lady. She's in my group in New York, and she's our group creative director of AI. Her name's Jenna. You can also check her out. She's done a lot of talks. And you know, she has this really wonderful phrase, which is creativity is the most important thing in AI right now. You know, we need creativity, we need design to make this useful. And, you know, I think that's often our role. I mean, just look at this conference. All the tools and the technologies are designed for designers, right? We're the first people to play with this technology because we're really good at making sense of it and humanizing it. And that's a really important role. So check Jenna out. Now, she has, again, tackled a problem here. So 83% of American news journalists are white. The majority of them are male. Pretty staggering. So she's created a new tool using AI. We call it Diversifier. And we use an algorithm to raise the voices of minority journalism. So we're in alpha stage right now. We're actually using, you'll notice we're using existing platforms, right? Because it's just going to make it easier for people. So we use Twitter. So the way that this works is you follow Diversifier on Twitter, and then it uses trending topics. And we use a database of diverse journalisms, and we use the algorithm to basically scan for content and tone so that you can get a really accurate comparison around how diverse and well-rounded that story is. And essentially, you will get a score, but also you will get other links from other journalists that can actually give you a complete picture of any story. So it's automated, really cool. I love this idea so much. Like I say, it's in alpha right now, so this should probably be ready in about 4 to 6 months. Try and remember it and check it out when we launch. Love that, dog. Well done to Jen. It's just a brilliant idea. Number 6 of 7, designing calm technology. Now, like the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and the circular economy, this is actually another really old idea. I'm sure some of you know it. This started in Xerox PARC in the 1970s. And a really leading thinker called Mark Weiser, he wrote a white paper saying the coming age of calm technology. And he was predicting a world in which technology would become so invasive and so annoying to us and distracting that we would need to think differently about how he designed it. And he wrote a manifesto called Calm Technology. It's been picked up by Harvard University and a lady called Amber Case. There's a website called calmtech.com. You can check it out. So here's some of the principles of calm technology. Technology should require the smallest possible amount of attention. Technology should inform and create calm. Imagine that. That would be good, wouldn't it? Technology should make use of the periphery. So this on the right here is an umbrella. So when it's going to rain, it glows blue. So you don't have to get your app out, you don't have to do anything. It just tells you it's going to rain, you just pick it up on your way out. It's one example of many, many on there. And I think this is really important, right? It's like a huge role for us to design technology so it works better for people. And this is a really old problem. The original elevators had to be slowed down because people were freaking out. You know, it's like we're often not ready for the technology. It's not the other way around. So I see this as a big role for us all, actually, to help humanize technology so it makes sense. And finally, actual inclusive design. I couldn't think of a better title way of saying this. Of course, inclusive design is a thing. So I'm trying to say, okay, this is actual inclusive design. So this is not about typeface sizes and color contrast. This is really about designing for all people in a way that's specific to their needs. So women influence 63% of car purchases, and yet over 70% more likely to get hurt in a crash. Do you know why that is? Exactly. There are no female crash test dummies. Which is insane. So Volkswagen just won a Cannes Gold for introducing basically diverse body shapes and body types for crash test dummies. And this isn't just crash test dummies, this is a huge problem. Basically, we live in a world that's been designed for the average white man. This is an amazing article to read, Guardian, The Deadly Truth About a World Built for Men, from stab vests to car crashes, you know? If this is not an invitation for innovation, I don't know what is, you know? Amazing. This is one of my favorite examples. So Tesco, they recently introduced the quiet hour. And so this is for people suffering from autism. So what they do is they turn the lights down. They don't have any tannoy. All of the noise goes away. And someone with autism can actually have a great experience. And they also introduced the slow queue, which is for the elderly or for people suffering with dementia. I mean, can you imagine trying to use those self-checkout things? I have a hard time. How's an elderly person supposed to use that? I didn't know a chance. So they're actually designing for people with all abilities. And I think that's really cool. Of course, it makes them money as well. So this is not just altruistic. There's a commercial value here, serving people with real needs that are different. Okay, if you want a copy of that, Adobe Live filmed it. So I'll post it straight after this. So I already have the video, so I know there was way too much to take notes. So finish on one last project. How design can move culture. Now, we share this project from RJ a lot. We're very proud of it. We want to tell a little bit of a different part of the story. So hopefully it's new. So this was a connected brand that we created to challenge implicit bias. We started this in 2015 when marriage equality was being debated. And of course, we have these implicit biases. We all have them. We do our thinking. 98% of our thinking in our subconscious mind. And that's where we store all of these biases. So we created a brand to try and tackle that. It's called Love Has No Labels. Brilliant creative team at RGA called Chris Northam and Eric Yannon came up with this really simple idea. What if we created a gigantic X-ray machine that removes the labels from people? We put that in the middle of the street. You see the dancing skeletons, and then from either end, a surprise emerges as a same-sex couple or a mixed religion couple or a mixed race couple, whatever. And the reactions of the people were amazing because you saw the bias revealed, you know? because we don't realize we have them. They're unconscious. So actually filming people's reactions was really important. This is a very verbal brand. Love has no disability. Love has no labels. And we created this very simple, systematic tool. And actually, the whole identity was designed for this moment. It's a frame that you can put yourself in, right? And because everybody loves somebody, this just took on a life of its own. It's actually the most successful campaign, most successful PSA after just a few weeks. It's incredible. I think it kind of caught us all by surprise. A brilliant piece of work by the team. Now, what I wanted to talk to you about was this. So we actually made some print ads, and we put these out, and we put them out in New York and all around the world. You maybe saw some. And what started happening was people started photographing themselves next to the ads and sending them around and back to the ad council. And the reason for that is because it was so surprising to see diverse images of love in mainstream media. The people were literally photographing themselves next to the. I mean, that's just shocking how undiverse mainstream media is. So that led to an interesting thought, which was, wow, maybe we should just double down actually on traditional media, print, TV, narrative, because we can use the bias in the media as the ultimate mechanism to make the point. Of course, we still create those tools for people to share their love, etc. So this was a really interesting take on that passive media behavior that I talked about. We also rallied the brand around really emotional moments. So the first one was Valentine's Day, and this one was about July 4th. So we're actually tapping into something that's really powerful, patriotism. We used data, and we looked at the census and other data to actually break down the average American. And then we used the least average American as a vehicle to tell this story. So John made literally, John Cena, literally like a superhuman athlete. His audience is WWE and NASCAR. And he just gave this amazing delivery of a narrative ad that we wrote. So I'm just going to play this. It's a few minutes long and then finish.
Patriotism. There's a word thrown around a lot. It inspires passionate debate and is worn like a badge of honor, and with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. Love. For a word designed to unite, it can also be pretty divisive. You see, there's more to patriotism than flag sequin onesies and rodeos and quadruple cheeseburgers. Patriotism is love for a country, not just pride in it. But what really makes up this country of ours? What is it we love? It's more than just a huge rock full of animals like cougars and eagles, right? It's the people. Do me a favor. Close your eyes for a second. I want to try something out. Picture the average U.S. citizen. Think about it. How old are they? What's their hair like? How much can they bench? You got one? Okay. So chances are, the person you're picturing right now looks a little different to the real average American. There are 319 million U.S. citizens. 51% are female. So first off, the average American is a woman. Cool, huh? Is that what you pictured? 54 million are Latino, 40 million senior citizens, 27 million are disabled, 18 million are Asian. That's more people in the U.S. than play football and baseball combined. 9 million are lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, more than the entire amount of people that live in the state of Virginia. Around 10 million are redhead, 5.1 million play ultimate frisbee, and 3.5 million are Muslim. Triple the number of people currently serving in the United States military. Almost half the country belongs to minority groups. People who are lesbian, African American, and bi, and transgender, and Native American, and proud of it. We know that labels don't devalue us, they help define us, keeping us dialed into our cultures and our beliefs and who we are as Americans. After all, what's more American than freedom to celebrate the things that make us, us? I mean, it's stitched into the stars and stripes of this country, from the Constitution to Gettysburg, to our motto, E pluribus unum, from many, one. It's even in our country's name, the United States. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, disability, sexuality, race, religion, and any other labels. Because the second any of us judge people based on those labels, we're not really being patriotic, are we? So let's try this one more time. Close your eyes. Picture the average Joe or Joan or Juan or Jean-Luc. The real people who make America, America. And this year, whenever you feel the urge to don those star-spangled shorts, set off fireworks the size of my biceps to show love for our country. Remember that to love America is to love all Americans, because love has no labels.
So here's a print. It's just people celebrating their love of patriotism, but how surprising is it to see it? And just using the lack of diversity in media to make the point. And this was really successful, over 100 million views and shares and all those kinds of things. And of course, we had that systematic piece. We just changed the frame so that you could share your love of your country as well as your love of your partner. Okay, so that's it really. Just a few final thoughts in summary. I think hopefully I've demonstrated that by connecting that brand story and system together, you can kind of achieve incredible network effects enabled by technology. You know, we've never been able to really do this before, and it's really important that you connect these two things together. Build brands from the bottom up, because today behavior is important as belief. This is not a perfect way to work, but it's just one way that we use to make brands more bloody useful. Campaigns more useful, experiences more useful and generous. Build around what people really need, and all people, not just one type of person. It's not the size of the boardroom, but the purpose that counts, and we can really help with that. And once you have that definition, it really is, we've never seen a moment where we could actually help design new models and new ways to actually activate that purpose. So it isn't just narrative, it's systematic. Design can transform businesses and move culture, change minds and challenge biases and improve lives in ways really big and really small. So it's just to bring us right back to the start again, this moment, we've never seen this moment before. Maybe the Industrial Revolution, but we didn't have an industry then, there weren't any designers then. And these are new tools to improve people's lives in new ways. And that's your skill. That really is your skill. And that's why you need it if you're a graphic designer or a product designer or a writer or a strategist. You're really good at making things better and solving problems. And guess what? We've got a lot more problems than we have people in our industry. So that is a huge invitation for innovation. And I hope you find that as exciting as I do, and we do. Okay, so join us, Evolve by Nature. Please visit those guys. They're really cool. Love Has No Labels. There's loads of good content on there, tools and tips and all those kinds of things. I'm at Mike Rigby. I'll share that, all this stuff straight after RGA, of course. And don't forget to do this cheeky thing down here because you can win some prizes as well. So thanks a lot for listening.